hopefully here. Okay, there we go. So let me flip. Alrighty, welcome everybody to the sixth episode of Brownsville Tech Live, and I'm welcoming back Mr. Steve El Federale Rodriguez.
What's up, people? How we doing? Merry Christmas.
Yeah, he decided to come back, so I guess it wasn't too bad the last time around. I know that we've
Well, you
had
know,
some.
some of us have to work. All right,
Well,
sir.
I have to work, you know. So I have to work hard to pay for everybody else,
Sure. Keep
Those
on telling yourself that.
those
You
government
might believe it.
employees, I wouldn't know. Anyway, for today's episode, as most of you who saw my ad, it's basically cutting the cord. And for those of you who don't know what that term is, it's basically getting rid of your cable and saving some money. It's not a new thing. I mean, it's been done for many years now, especially with the streaming services that have come out, like Netflix and Hulu and some of those services. But you can actually save money. There's a lot of
What?
cost
Saving money,
involved.
then?
Huh?
Saving money? Really?
Saving money for those of us that can't afford cable. Uh,
Oh,
you know,
what?
some of us can afford it, some of us can't. So we're trying to save money. Actually, I've been a streamer now, a full-time streamer for about 3 to 4 years now. I actually don't have cable TV in the traditional sense. So I'm going to go through and show you all some options that you can do that you can possibly cut your cable TV service in half. Uh, you're still gonna you're still gonna need an internet service, and there's two ways right now to get a good, reliable internet service. That's through your local cable company or your local telephone company. There are differences between the two. One is slower than the other one, and that can make a difference when it comes to streaming. So it's pretty important if you're going to cut the cord that you probably cut the cord when you're assured that you've got good internet service. So anyway, so how much? I mean, you don't have to give me an exact figure. So how much have you paid in the past for cable?
For cable and internet combined, I was paying $213.
Wow. Wow. And what did that
For
include?
about a year and a half ago, a friend of mine told me, Steve, that's a little bit too much. Why don't you just cut the cord? I'm
Yeah.
like, and if I do that, what will happen? Well, you'll just pay the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how am I going to get my local channels? How would I watch the Dallas Cowboys?
The Dallas
Right?
Cowboys lose, right?
No, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. They're going to the Super Bowl, sir. They're going to be there, right? Hey, hey, have faith. So now
Well,
I only pay $80 a month.
wow. Well, that's good. Well, I did this, I did the same thing. And there are ways that you can get your local channels, and there's ways that you can even get cable channels. So, and we'll show a couple of ways that you can do that. So one of the very first things is that I'm going to show here is a little bit of facts and figures with regards to cable service today. And then we'll go and look at some of the solutions available for the local channels and, of course, the cable TV alternatives, including the streaming. We'll also look at two devices, primarily the Roku and the Amazon Fire Stick Max. We've got some videos when it comes to that, so we'll go ahead and do that. So let me go ahead and get started here. Let me pull up my slide presentation here. And I'm going to go ahead and switch screens here for a second. Alrighty, hold on one second. Hold on one second here. What happened to you? What's wrong? There you. What?
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
You disappeared on me.
It's all right.
All right. So but you can see the video. You can see the PowerPoint. Okay, so basically, right now the average U.S. cable and TV and internet bill is about $116 a month, which equals about $1,100 a year. Obviously, you were telling me that you were paying $213, so you were special. You were like paying more for the internet.
Well, remember, I had some special channels out there, right?
Well, let's not talk about all those special channels. I can imagine the kind of special
NFL
channels.
Network, all right, HBO. Hey, don't even go there. It's a family show, Dan.
I know. All right, so basically, this is the average cost of what it costs for cable TV today. Back in the old days, back in your day.
In my day.
In your day.
Aren't we about the same age?
No, I'm actually younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
So back in your day, if you recall, we had 13 channels on cable TV. Basic.
I don't know. I didn't have cable back in the day.
Well, I did.
I was poor.
I can honestly say that I don't know what it's like to live without cable. Actually, I was having that conversation with my family this morning that I have never known what it's like not to live without cable.
See, some of us were poor, and some of us only had channel
But it wasn't
4,
much of cable. It was only 13 channels.
23, and televisión de México.
So you watched the novelas then, huh?
Yes, telenovelas all the way, and Chavo del Ocho, and Chispirito, and all that good stuff.
All
right?
that stuff. Well, back in those days, there was only 13 channels, if you recall. You were lucky to get 13 channels. And then if you wanted like HBO and Cinemax, well, that was extra. Those are called premium channels. But every so often, every couple of months, the cable company would throw out the Cinemax or the HBO for free for a week or so they could entice you to sign up. They would do that. I remember that. So that was kind of cool having that. And then they went from the basic 13 over to the expanded cable that gave like everything from CNN to all those channels. And it kind of grew from there, and it grew from there. And then they did the conversion from analog over to digital, and then of course HDTV came years later. But people used to only pay $40 a month for cable back in those days. But this is basically it now because you have the internet as well. So, but this is the average cost right there. It's $116.
And that's this year, last year. When are
This
those
is
data
based on a
figures?
study of 2021. It was this year. It was
Oh,
done
wow.
by some government agency. You know, like I said, that's the average. Doesn't mean that people are paying that amount. Some people could be paying less, but everybody that I've talked to says they're paying anywhere from 150 up to 250.
Mhm.
I even knew somebody was paying up to 300 because he was a big avid sports guy and he had to have all the channels. But
Yeah.
that's the average cost. And like I mentioned, it doesn't include premium channel or sports packages. And what do I mean by that? Well, premium channels are, basically HBO, uh, Cinemax, Showtime, and of course for sports, you have the NFL Network, and for those that are into
Yeah.
baseball, they have the NL, what is it? The NLB? Yeah, the NLB,
MLB and the
MLB.
NHL
Yeah,
and the NBA.
right. So I think all of those are packaged separately,
Yes.
So obviously your cost past 200 you end up having because of these premium channels. And back in the old days, there was stuff to really watch on those channels. I really don't think there is much these days that's really great on those channels. But anyway, so the question is, if you were to cut your cable today, the big thing for those who want to continue to get local channels is, how do you get them? Well, the way you get them is by using an off-air high-definition TV antenna. And basically, it's the old antenna types that used to be used in the 70s when you collected off-the-air signals. Actually, there's no difference between a regular antenna and an HD antenna, by the way. People think there is. There isn't. It's the same signal. There's nothing digital about that antenna. There's nothing high definition. An antenna is an antenna is an antenna, but people sell it. And what I mean by the local channels, it's basically your CBS, your ABC, your NBC, your Fox, your favorite station, and Univision. So that's what the local channels are. There in our area, we have the luxury of getting a lot of Mexican channels as well. So those are considered local channels as well. In this area, you can get up to 40 channels, maybe more. It depends on your antenna. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But, basically what's recommended is an outdoor HD TV antenna. And that will give you the maximum amount of channels for your money, really. You can always buy those indoor antennas. And the problem with those is that they have a range of less than 25 miles. So if the station you're trying to get is over 25 miles, you're going to get it on some days and then you're not going to get it on other days. And a typical example of a station that has that issue is KRGV TV. They're in Westlaco. For whatever reason, these little antennas have a hard time picking it up. You really have to move those things over and over to try to find the best signal. So right now, like at my house, we can't get KRGV TV because the indoor ones that I have don't support that. I have an outdoor antenna that fuels 2 TVs. Those I can get KRGV TV, but the difference is the 25-mile range for those.
And what's the difference in price, Dan, for the outdoor antenna or the indoor antenna?
Well, you can get some as the outdoor antenna. You can get some as low as $49. Your indoor antennas, you can get them as cheap as $9 at Walmart. So the problem with the indoor antenna, you got to have one for every TV. So if you've got 4 TVs, you need 4 indoor HD TV antennas. And then, of course, I don't know about you, but I consider them eyesores because a lot of times to try to get maximum signal, you've got to kind of hang them up somewhere on the wall, and they kind of look kind of cruddy. So I'm not, I'm not too big on seeing those antennas. Even though I will admit that this one that I have in this room right now, I do have an indoor, and the indoor is facing the outside window, so it looks kind of cruddy, but that's the best I can do for this one. So basically, what is it that you need? As you mentioned, what kind of antenna? Well, they have these type of antennas, and you basically can install these outside via at Home Depot. They sell these little stands. They used to be used for satellite dishes, but you can actually use them to mount this type of antenna on the side of the house. That's the most aesthetic look. You can also use a pole. Depending on what kind of trees you have around the area, you may have to go a little higher. But basically, this type of antenna comes with, it can support up to like 5 devices, and it's got a splitter. So basically, this type of antenna gives you a 250-mile range. So that means that if the station is at least 250 miles, you're going to get something, So my recommendation, get yourself an antenna with at least a 250-mile range. I mean, if you want to go cheap, you can even get a 75 one, but keep in mind that KRGV is about 50 miles away, and then Fox, which is, I think, off of McAllen somewhere on, is it Ware Road? I don't know. It's somewhere over there.
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. That's where we're at. And so you've got to consider that mile range in the process. The antenna should include a rotator. And what the rotator does is basically there are preferred areas of direction where all the signals come from. So depending on wind and so forth, the antenna can shift. Well, what the rotator allows you to do is to press a button from the inside, and it makes the antenna course correct. So it's very important to get that. Otherwise, you're going to have to be climbing up the roof or wherever you have it and manually adjusting it. So that's the whole purpose of having it come with a rotator. The other thing is it has to include a splitter. What the splitter does is it takes the inbound signal and then it provides X amount of outputs to every TV. The problem that can happen, and I kind of talked about this before, is that coax cable by its very nature loses dB levels as you split and cut the cable.
For some of us that don't know what a dB is.
A dB level basically is the signal strength coming down the wire. So when you cut that initial coax, it loses dB level by a little bit. When your internet and your cable come into your house, there is a splitter that the cable company provides. That that splitter runs under different frequencies. For the cable signal, it has to be connected to a certain output port on the splitter. You just can't connect it anywhere. It's different than the regular cable. And it actually is a different bandwidth altogether. It's the carrier signal goes on a different bandwidth. The internet is separate from the cable TV. They're two different signals on two different bandwidths. It's kind of like on the freeway. You've got 2 lanes. One lane is transmitting the internet. The other lane is transmitting your cable signal. So what happens is as you cut the cable incoming to your house, you lose dB signals, so your second and your third and your fourth TV, maybe your fifth TV, will have the resolutions, the signal lower, and you'll be able to tell by the resolution. So one of the things that is also recommended is that you get an amplifier and a booster, because what the amplifier and the booster does, it has the same ports as the splitter. In fact, you can literally put an amplifier between the main feed of the antenna and the splitter and send a boosted signal, or instead of the splitter, you could get an amplifier that has inputs and several outputs. And what the amplifier does is it boosts the signal equally to every TV. So you have an equal amount of signal to every device. Back in well, not too far in the old days, back when Radio Shack existed, you could actually go and buy these amplifiers. I actually have one somewhere around here, but it's usually a black little box with an electrical cord, and you plug it in to get the signal, to get the electricity to do the boosting, and it works fairly well. They also weren't allowed near airports because it interfered with their radar for some reason. They were disallowed for quite some time. But basically, once you get all this stuff purchased and you're ready to set it up, you've got to figure out, well, where do I point my antenna to? Well, back in the old days, they required two people, two guys. One guy's up on the roof, and the other guy's over there by the TV, and one guy is moving the antenna, and another guy's over there saying, yes, I get signal, no, I don't. It was like the same thing with the satellite dishes at one time, back those direct TVs. You had to do the same thing. Well,
I remember that part.
Yep. It was no fun, especially for the guy that had to get up on the roof. So times have changed, and now you can actually use an app on your phone. It's called DTV Antennas. And basically what that does is it uses the compass or GPS feature of your phone, and it actually moves around and tells you the ideal direction that the signals are coming from, or that how you should point your antenna to get that particular station. Doesn't mean that you're not gonna get let's say like in this case, in this example, you've got this station, you're told that pointed in that direction, but then you've got this one this way. This doesn't mean that you're not going to get the channel for this one. You may or may not, but it'll give you the ideal thing, the ideal direction where to do it. So it's kind of neat. I've used it a couple of times, but it's available for iOS for those Apple iPhone folks as well as Android. You can get that on the Apple App Store as well as Google Play. And the only other thing that I'm going to mention is that some people live in neighborhoods that have homeowners associations.
Right.
And they usually have restrictions. I know here in this neighborhood, we're not supposed to have satellite dishes in the front. Nobody ever really pays attention, but some neighborhoods are more tougher than others. So what you can also do, if they have those kind of restrictions, you can actually put the antenna in the attic, and that will work the same way. So it's just something that, I wanted to mention with regards to that. I'm going to try to see if I can launch real quick just to show the actual app on the phone real quick. Let me see if it'll turn on. Give me a second. Hold on. Okay. Somehow it's supposed to work.
Operator.
No, it actually should be working. Hold on. Something's screwy here. Hold on. I'm going to do a disconnect, and then I'm going to do a reconnect. And I'm going to do phone and start now. Oh, start now. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And basically, alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to the demo. Okay, hold on. Demo? Where the heck is it? Demo.
We're having technical difficulties.
No, it's just that what happened is my phone turned off. Hold on. There we go. All right, so I'm going to switch real quick. Actually, I'm not going to be able to show the app. What happened is that I didn't add the mic inputs to that screen, so I don't know if you could hear me. Could you hear me?
No.
Ah, that's why. So I kind of did it on the fly, so it's my fault for being unprepared. But basically, it works really well. I mean, you can. It really does work. I mean, it tells you exactly where to point that antenna, and like I said, when you do it once, you're only going to have to do it once, unless there's a hurricane or winds over 75 miles. It can shift and move, just like a satellite dish. I mean, a lot of times, if you've got, I don't have satellite service anymore. I know that you also previously had satellite service
Yes,
before,
yes.
and very often, every once in a while, you'd start seeing the pixelation on the screen, and that was because the looseness of the satellite dish. I mean, the wind really takes a beating on that dish, and eventually, it'll move. And so, like I said, back in the old days, you had to literally get up and do the thing. I think I remember installing a dish or two at your house.
You and your brother helped me out one day, I remember. At my
Yeah,
mom's house.
yeah. So it was different, but the app definitely helps. But once you get past the local channel situation, how do you get cable channels if you really want cable channels? Well, there's different ways to do it. One of the ways that can be done, I'll go ahead and launch my browser here for a second. Give me a second here. Let me do a display capture. There we go. So I'm going to share my second screen. Oh, by the way, I can do the demo. I can do the demo. Yeah. So basically, you see how I'm moving my phone? And you see how on the screen... Well, hold on. All right. Well, nobody can see it, but here we go. So basically, so you see? So it uses the GPS features of the phone to tell you where to point the antenna. So if you're facing this way, it's saying to get that station, point that antenna that way. If you're going in this direction, send it that way, and then this way. And it's a pretty neat tool. I mean, compared to how we used to do it, it is kind of neat. So, yeah, so I got to share it after. I guess I should have done it that way. I don't know why I didn't think about it. But anyway, let me see here. Let me launch my browser here. Actually, what we're going to do first is we are going to do... Actually, what we're going to do first, we're going to actually stream a video from well, no, we're not going to do that yet. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how to actually get cable TV. So we'll do that first, and you've got a couple of alternatives. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my browser, and I'll bring it over here. Actually, I'll do even better. I will launch the service that I use to get cable TV right on my computer. Let me find it here.
What service do you use?
I use Sling.
Sling.
Yeah. So as you can see right there, basically I've got Sling TV. And in a few minutes, when it loads, I end up getting the Sling app. And what I basically have is I have the same set of cable channels that I do. Sling is about $25 a month.
For how many users?
You can actually have multiple users. Before you were limited, but I believe that now you can have multiple users. So I basically get cable TV. I have the Sling app on my computer, but I also have the Sling app on my phone, and I have the Sling app on my Roku devices. So I can access cable TV via those three methods. So I've got the kind of channels that you have, or like I've got the FX channel. I've got something called FS1. You've got NBC, MSNBC, the NFL Network. I get that. There's
That was
also,
Thursday's guide, wasn't it?
I don't know, was it? I'm not sure.
Well, if you had the NFL Network and it's showing the game, yeah, that was
Well,
Thursday's game.
well, yeah. I mean, the NFL does network is on live all the time, you know.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let me move this a little bit this way, so I'm not
There
counting.
we go.
There we go. So basically, I get the NFL Network, I get Epix, AMC, TNT, TBS, True TV, USA, SFFV, whatever that is. The
Science fiction.
yeah, the Comet Channel, Comedy Central, Black Entertainment, Entertainment A&E, the History Channel, Vice TV, the BBC, IFC, AWX, Fuse, HGTV, TLC. I get Bravo, Entertainment Tonight, the Food Network, QVC, Travel, Discovery. I'm not sure what that channel is. I've never seen it before. It's probably
Identification.
it's probably a girl channel.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not.
No.
It's not like
Eh,
Hallmark.
No, it's not.
Okay, sorry.
It's law enforcement.
That's what it is. No wonder you like that show. National Geographic, the Cartoon Network, Looney Tunes, Nick Jr., Nicktoons, Teen Nick, Baby TV. In case you're
That's your favorite channel, right? Baby TV?
no, I can't have any more babies.
Yeah.
Season TV, CNN, Fox News. That's your favorite channel. MSNBC, HLN, Bloomberg, Cheddar, Local Now, Lifetime. In case you're into Lifetime.
Yeah. Hey, so how many channels do you get with that package?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to count. Probably more than
What?
30. I get all these ESPNs, ESPN 1, 2, and 3. Motor Trend, if you're into the car stuff. I can't really tell what that is.
Freeform.
Okay. Disney Channel, Disney Junior, Disney XD. And then, of course, you've got ABC News Live, CBS News, Newsy, BNC Week, Entertainment Live. I guess they've got a Walking Dead channel now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know. And they've got AMC Thrillers, All Reality. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on.
And how much do you pay per month
I think I pay like $25 a month.
for all those channels?
Yep.
Hey, man. Is there any outages or anything like that?
Only when the internet's out. Yeah. The other alternative is to use YouTube has something equivalent. I'm not really familiar with their service, but you can actually get something similar through YouTube TV. But I honestly, I'm not sure how theirs really works. But I've had Sling for many years, and I mean it works for us. To be honest with you, we may watch like typical cable, maybe 2 or 3 channels out of the bunch. But at least you're not paying over $100 and watching 3 channels. At least you're paying $25 and watching 3 channels. Like, that kind of makes you.
That's in addition to your internet.
In addition to the internet, that is correct.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's an option for anybody wondering how can you get cable. You know, of course, the other thing is, once you have a streaming device, then you've got access to different types of apps. One of the ones that I use quite a bit, let me see if I can find it here. Give me a second. Hold on one second. Well, I thought I had it. Beats me. Thought I did. Maybe I don't. Oh yeah, I do. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you've got access to Amazon Prime Video. And
Yes.
with their Fire Sticks and their Fire TVs, you basically have, access to watch, whatever movies they offer. The same thing with Netflix. You can do Netflix as well. through streaming as well. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can get your cable TVs. If you kind of are the old school and remember the old days of pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is a thing of the past now. Everything's streaming, so you have a lot more options now streaming wise than when you did pay-per-view back in the old days. You bought the movie and you had to see it, otherwise you were screwed. If you didn't see it, oh well. But you've got different options. If you're a Prime member, you can watch several movies for free. It's like Netflix. You pay the subscription. Some people don't like some of these services because they claim they're old movies. I mean, there was a time, and I think you can remember. There are many times that when you went to the movies really often, there was a lot of things you really couldn't watch on these services because you'd already seen them at the movie theater. But I haven't been to the movie theater in at least 2 years. So there's a lot of stuff right now that I probably haven't seen. But there's a lot of stuff that hasn't even come out because of COVID, as well. So, but even now, it's not so much the movie that I'd like to go see. I like to see some of these prime time originals and stuff. These prime originals, and Netflix has the same thing. There's some pretty interesting shows there. So, but like I said, this is the option that you have once you've converted. Once you've got your local solid with your antenna, then you've got an alternative to pay a little bit less when it comes and getting the amount of cable channels. But so how do you do that? How do you get these apps? As I mentioned, you can use your phone, you can use your tablet, you can use your computer. But if you've got a big TV in your living room or in your bedroom, you kind of, it's kind of cumbersome. Oh, I lost my headphone. It's kind of cumbersome, having to lug something around to watch something. So, there's streaming devices out there. So one of the really popular ones is, Roku TV. Roku has devices, Apple TV has devices, Amazon has devices. There's several companies that do. Besides, Roku and Amazon, there's other companies like NVIDIA, which is a graphics card maker that actually has Android TV devices. And then Google TV, that's come a long way as well. So there's different devices, on the Roku side, you've got Roku devices. On the Amazon side, you've got Fire Sticks. On the Google side, you have Chromecast. And, you could buy, several other devices as well to do streaming. But one of the very first videos is we're going to look at what right now is being offered by Roku with regards to a streaming device. So if you hang on for just a second, we'll go ahead and watch that video, and then we'll come back and talk about that one. All right, here we go.
Roku has a lot of streamers. They range from $30 to $100, and they all do a pretty good job taking Disney Plus, Netflix, HBO Max, and bringing it onto your TV. But which one is the best for you? Let's break it all down. First, the candidates. On the cheapest end of the spectrum is the $30 Roku Express. This player streams in HD, not 4K, and comes with a simple remote, not one of Roku's more advanced voice remotes that not only allow you to use voice control, but can point anywhere instead of having to point directly at the Roku. Since this simple remote uses infrared, if you want to navigate your Roku, you're going to have to make sure you're pointing directly at that Express box. For $40, you get the Express 4K Plus. This looks a lot like the regular Express, but it can stream in 4K HDR and comes with the new voice remote that allows you to not only use voice controls, but can point anywhere instead of having to find the IR spot on the Express box. At $50 is the Streaming Stick Plus, our previous go-to Roku pick. It's a dongle that plugs into your TV's HDMI port and can stream in 4K HDR. Even though it's one of the older models in Roku's lineup, it still performs pretty well. At the high end is the $100 Ultra. This is a box, not a streaming stick or dongle, and it's Roku's most powerful player. It can play back videos in 4K HDR with Dolby Vision, has an Ethernet port on the back for wired connections, and includes a nifty remote finder button on the actual box itself that you could press that will play a chime on the enhanced voice remote that it ships with. This remote is a step up from the voice remote that comes with the Express 4K Plus or the Streaming Stick Plus, in that it can do all the regular voice remote functions that those remotes can do, but also has a speaker, so when you press this button, it can play a little beeping sound to let you find a remote if it's lost, say, in the couch cushion. The enhanced voice remote also has 2 dedicated buttons that you can customize to do voice commands, such as open an app like HBO Max, which doesn't have a dedicated button on the bottom of the Roku remote. So, what's the pick? For most people, the $40 Express 4K Plus is probably the perfect Roku. It's $10 cheaper than the Streaming Stick Plus, but still has much of the same functionality, including the ability to stream in 4K HDR and that better voice remote. Sure, it's not as sleek and small as the dongle that is the Streaming Stick Plus, but Roku includes everything you need, including that adhesive sticker that allows you to tuck this under or behind a TV so you never have to see it. I found it to be quick opening apps and navigating Roku's interface, and had no problems playing back videos in 4K HDR. The device can also handle Dolby Atmos if your soundbar or sound system supports it. Mine doesn't, so I wasn't able to test it, but I did notice Dolby Atmos logos appear when I was looking at content on Netflix, for example. Looking for Ethernet? The Express 4K Plus is also one of the first modern Rokus not named Ultra to be able to work with third-party micro USB adapters. I got one off of Amazon, plugged it in, and it worked fine. If there are features on other Rokus like the Ultra's remote finder function that intrigue you, you actually can get that with the Express 4K Plus if you buy Roku's $30 Voice Remote Pro. Combining the Voice Remote Pro with the Express 4K Plus, you're at $70, a $30 savings compared to the Ultra. Those looking for Dolby Vision will still need to step up to the $100 Ultra, but for most people, the Express 4K Plus at $40 will check all the boxes you could need. So are you a Roku?
Alrighty, so actually I've got a couple of Roku devices. I don't have any 4K devices because I don't actually have a 4K TV right now. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because nobody's really transmitting in it anyway.
Right.
Right, but I have several Roku devices. One of the very first one that I got was that similar to that high end the guy was talking about, the one for like $100. The nice thing about that one, as he mentioned, is that in addition to it working wirelessly, you can actually run an Ethernet cable from your cable modem and connect it directly, and that will minimize any kind of buffering or Wi-Fi issues. That's the nice thing about that one. The other thing that's nice about that unit is that it's got an SD card slot, and you can install the SD card slot in it, and you can increase the amount of channels, because each of these devices have only a certain amount of memory to hold the channels. And what will happen after a couple of weeks that you don't watch the particular channel, it'll remove a little bit of the application, and the next time you try to look for it or you try to use it, it's going to have to re-download some of the things that it removed. So that's one of the nice things about it, is that you can add an external SD card that you can use for storage. So
Some people are putting down in the messages they don't use cable, it's too expensive, and somebody put Starlink.
Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
Roku has a lot of streamers.
You there? You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Somehow you froze on my screen here. Give me a second.
That's all right. That's all right, man. Hey, nothing to worry about. Man. So some people use Starlink. What is that? Do you know?
Starlink basically is Elon Musk's web-based. You there?
You lost me.
Yeah, I know. I just lost you. Hold on. Let me see if I can get you back. There we go. Oh, I know why. Hold on.
What did you do?
I hit the. Hold on. It's just that I've got all these streaming services all over. Let me turn these off. We don't need them anymore. Hold on.
And then you wonder why I'm not on your show.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happened to you. Hold on. What the heck? Oh, return to meeting. Duh. Okay.
That might help.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what happened is when I minimized you. There we go. You there?
There you are.
Yeah, what happened is when I switched over to the streaming services, I froze you. So
That's
anyway,
right. Be
so
on-
what were you
didn't
saying?
want-
You were saying, what were you saying?
Yeah, the messages were people don't use cable. It's too expensive. Some people use Starlink.
Well, Starlink, what Starlink is Elon Musk's satellite service. Basically, back for anybody that lives out in the boonies, and I mean like out at the, outside the city limits, they can't get cable TV or telephone DSL. Locally here we have Spectrum and AT&T. But there are lots of places outside of the city of Brownsville or outside of San Benito or Harlingen that can't get cable or can't get internet. And so the only alternative that they had for a long time was to use satellite internet. And the only company that offered it was a company called Directway, which was owned by HughesNet. HughesNet is a company that was started by Howard Hughes back a long, long time ago, and he actually provided satellite data services to the federal government. And so Howard Hughes actually started that company. Well, he started a lot of companies, but he was into that. And obviously, he died a long time ago, but a lot of his companies still exist. A lot of people would be surprised what those companies actually do. But HughesNet is the provider of the satellite service. And the problem with it is it's very slow. As the signal goes up, it has to go up into space and then come back down. And there's something called latency. So you'd be lucky to get 5 megabits per second on satellite service. The thing is that it worked in the 60s and the 70s because all that computer data traffic was all character-based, green screen character-based. There's not a whole lot of data. There's not a whole lot of bandwidth when you have letters and numbers, with characters. But now you're talking windowed devices, Macs and Windows PCs that have graphical user interfaces. They're trying to access, web pages that have video. Well, that just wasn't going to work. So it wasn't an alternative. And there's other alternatives. There's wireless internet, but the most that you can get is about 10 megabits per second. I have relatives that have it, and they've got 10 megabits per second, and they can stream okay, but they can only stream like on one TV. You can't stream on, four
on
or
multiple
five,
devices at a
multiple
time.
devices, plus your phones, your tablets, your computers, and so forth. So that doesn't work. So Elon Musk started a company called Starlink, and basically he started launching these mini satellites. I don't even know how small these things are. But end result, there's going to be 2,000 satellites in orbit, these mini satellites. And the bandwidth capability of that service is near cable quality. So the speeds of cable you're going to reach with Starlink. It is $99 a month, which is about $20 higher than wireless or your traditional satellite service. And there is a $499 equipment charge. But once you get past that, you'll have equivalent service. If you live out in the boonies, in the middle of nowhere, out in Timbuktu, and you have no alternative, well, that's your alternative. And you're not really going to pay any more than you would for cable, give or take taxes. So I think it's going to be an interesting thing for Starlink, because a lot of places in this country still can't get internet. A lot of places in this county here can't get internet. In the valley, we can't.
Oh, Starlink is just internet. It's not cable.
No. Yeah, but keep in mind, once you have Starlink, then you can use Sling TV. So I mean, there's different ways to skin the cat. And people tell me, well, are you really saving money? It just depends. It depends what your tastes are. I mean, if, like in the case of, my brother, he only subscribes to Amazon Prime. He doesn't care for Netflix or any of those other channels. So between Amazon Prime and these locals, he's happy. I'm a little bit more, I need to have at least a few cable channels, So for me, I need to subscribe to those things. I mean, since I'm an avid Star Trek fan, well, I subscribe to Paramount Plus because I get all the Star Trek shows on Paramount Plus. So I subscribe to that, but that's because it's my preference,
Right. It's on a personal choice.
Yeah.
And for those of us that have children, we have Disney Plus.
Right.
We have Netflix.
Right.
We have Prime Video.
Right. Well, I remember one time, and I don't know if it was streaming. I don't think it was streaming because HBO didn't have a streaming app. But I remember in the old days of cable, I used to be a Sopranos avid watcher, and I had HBO specifically because of the Sopranos. There was nothing else on HBO I wanted to see other than the Sopranos. But there's people. I don't even know if HBO has boxing matches anymore. But I know that, like, one of my uncles who recently passed away, he was an avid boxer fan and wanted to have that so that he could watch his box. I mean, I remember I can remember the last time that I saw a pay-per-view HBO. I'll never forget it. It was at this guy's house that I used to work for another company. And it was the Mike Tyson Holyfield fight where Holyfield gets his ear bitten. And the fight ended within 5 minutes. Well, I can't remember how much my friend paid for the pay-per-view, but basically he had paid for it, and he was having a party at his house to watch the fight. And so I went. Well, he was really upset because of the fact that Holyfield had his ear bitten, and he had paid this money for pay-per-view, and it was over within 5 minutes. So I don't think it was 5 minutes. I can't even remember, but he was still pissed about the fact that, he paid for something he couldn't watch completely. So it depends on, I guess what I'm trying to say, it depends on your viewing habits or your viewing interests. I shouldn't say habits. Now, some people may have habits, certain things, but it's your viewing interests. I guess that would be the better term. So the other alternative that I want to briefly just look at and talk about is Amazon Prime. They've got the Fire Stick, they've got the tablets, but they recently came out with something called the Fire Stick Max or the Fire Stick TV. And what caught my attention wasn't the stuff that you can get through Amazon Prime, because I think a lot of people know what movies you can get. But what's really cool, or what really is interesting about this TV, especially for some of us who are used to some of the old video games, we're talking the old ones, not the current ones. This apparently it has retro gaming PC devices. So I'm going to go ahead and switch real quick to some screens. I may lose you again. Actually, I'm just going to move you to the other monitor so I don't lose you.
All right, don't lose me, please.
Yeah. So let me see. There we go. So it's going to be another Prime video. It's going to be another YouTube video, but this time it's going to talk about the Fire TV Stick Max 4K or 4K Max. And I'll go ahead and switch screens. I think you should be able to be all right here. So let me see. Let me get this out of the way.
These are great little budget devices that allow you to stream all sorts of media. But the thing is, this most recent version has some pretty good specs. So today we're going to test it out and see how it actually performs as a retro gaming machine. Of course, all the things that a Fire Stick is known for, you know, streaming Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and things like that, they're still completely relevant on this device. And it plays things in 4K and HDR, and it also has Wi-Fi 6, so you have a much more stable connection. But this isn't going to be a review of any of those capabilities. We're really just going to look at how it performs for gaming. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up RetroArch and other emulators, and then also how to put your games on here, and then we'll see how they perform. And honestly, the amount of value that I got out of this thing at $55 for its retail non-sale price is kind of crazy. Like, this is probably one of the better deals you could find out there. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what it can play. So, without any further delay, let's see what this thing can do. Okay, so this device runs for $55 when it's not on sale, but you know, this thing goes on sale very often. For example, on Black Friday, I would expect this to drop down to something like maybe even $45 or $40. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to dive too much into the specs because they're well documented, but it does run a quad-core 1.8 GHz CPU. It has a 750 MHz GPU, 8 gigs of onboard storage, the Wi-Fi 6 I was telling you about earlier, Bluetooth 5.0, as well as 2 gigs of RAM. And if you want to see more about what it can do in the whole streaming side of things, then definitely check out the listing on Amazon. But let me show you how to set it up for gaming. Like I mentioned before, it only has 8 gigs of storage, so that's not going to be enough if you're actually going to put on something other than, say, Game Boy or Nintendo games. So what we're going to use is this USB flash drive right here. This one here is 128 gigs, and I got it for $14. And that'll be plenty for most of the games we want to play. You're also going to want to have an OTG adapter like this. It's going to split the signal. This costs another $5. So we're looking at about additional $20 to get all this set up. All right, let's see what's inside the box. So first is the Fire Stick itself, and really there's not a lot to talk about here. It just has the one single micro USB input. Other than that, there is no other I/O. Obviously, the stick itself has HDMI. Perfect. Either way, the picture is not going to look quite as good as it normally would when I'm capturing footage, but I think you'll still be impressed. So let's talk about the Fire TV operating system experience. This is what it looks like. It's just like your typical streaming device interface. You can go through and browse through your streaming apps or whatever apps they already have preloaded on here. Honestly, I'm not going to focus on this stuff too much. There's so many other channels and videos out there about this. But let me show you how to install emulators. There's no special trick to this. We're not going to hack the Kindle or anything else like that. We just need to access them. First thing you do is go into the Find then App Store section, go into All Categories, and then find the category named Utilities. Within here, the very first app you'll find is one called Download. And this is it. You basically just install this app. This is going to allow you to browse the internet and download APKs, which you can then install directly onto the device. No hacking or anything else required. So once you've installed this app, it's going to ask you some file permissions. Are you sure you're going to want to allow it to access your photos, things like that? Just go ahead and hit OK. And this is the main downloader interface. Just go into the search bar here and then search for whatever you want. Let's start with RetroArch. And searching for the word RetroArch is going to give you a Google results page. And the first available option is going to be RetroArch itself. It's a little bit weird to navigate with the mouse interface using a remote, but you can get there. Once you get to the RetroArch page, just hit the hamburger icon and then select the word download. Like I warned you, the autofocus on my camera isn't perfect. Either way, once you get there, just go ahead and scroll down until you find the Android symbol, and then you'll have several different options available here. Now personally, I tested out the 64-bit version of RetroArch. It doesn't work, so just grab the one that says download. It'll take a minute to download this 155 meg file. After that, you can go ahead and install it. It may give you some permission questions. Just go ahead and grant whatever permission or accesses it needs. Once it's complete, go ahead and hit done, and then it'll actually ask you if you want to delete the file afterwards. And I recommend, yes, delete that file. You're not going to need it. Now, if you go over to the right before the settings, there's an apps button here. You can click on that, and at the very bottom, RetroArch is going to appear. First thing you're going to want to do is start up RetroArch and give it access to your external storage. and then let it extract the base APK file. This is going to improve your fonts and everything else. And there we are. Now we have RetroArch fully loaded onto this device. So now we're ready to actually add games. First thing you want to do is actually quit out of RetroArch. And if you haven't already plugged in the USB flash drive, you can go ahead and do that now. Okay, and once it's plugged in, go over to the settings section and then select My Fire TV. And within here, you're going to see a section that says USB drive. And in there, it should show you that there is a USB drive available. It'll give you the options to eject the USB or format to internal storage. You actually don't need to do any of these things. This is just a confirmation that it's plugged in and working. So what we're going to do now is actually unplug that USB drive and stick it into your computer. Now we're going to load it up with games. You'll see that the drive initially has an Android folder, and you're not going to really need to use that. Just go ahead and make a new folder called Games. And within here, we're going to put all of our game files. I already have a game collection here, which includes things like BIOS files, as well as all the ROMs that I want to test out with. And of course, because of copyright, you're going to be on your own to source all of these files. Biggest thing is you're going to want to make sure you find a RetroArch BIOS pack and add that to your folder. And then from there, pick whatever systems you want to emulate. This video here is going to show you which perform the best, and that'll help you make decisions. Finding a friend coming over and saying, hey, what's that controller for? And I say, oh, to play retro games on my Fire Stick. And they're going to be like, whoa, show me how to do this. And you're going to show them this video. Okay, back to the matter at hand. Once you have all your games on the USB drive, plug that back into the Fire Stick. And now let's hook up that controller. You're going to go over to Settings and then Controllers and Bluetooth Devices. Within here, there's a Game Controllers section. And just select Add a New Controller. And within here, start your pairing mode on your controller and then just pair it up like you would any other Bluetooth device. So it's a little bit smaller on your screen, but honestly, it's going to look a lot better, and I would recommend doing this, especially if you want to avoid any sort of pixel distortions. But anyway, as you can see, Game Boy Advance runs just fine on this, 60 frames per second solid. So let's go ahead and add another system. We're going to go back into Manual Scan, and then this time we're going to select Game Boy Color. And so here we'll change out the directory and the name of the...
Yeah, so basically that device has the ability for you to load up games on it. You know, obviously they're not Xbox or PS5 games, but, you know, if you're into a lot of that retro stuff, you know, that Fire Stick is going to allow you to do that. I mean, a few years ago, and I have two, they used to sell these Atari 2600 like replicas, and it came like with 10, 15 games, and you connected it, and it worked just like it. It worked just like it, but you know, some of those retro games now, I mean, you can load, and you'll be able to load them on some of these devices. So
They sell those at the mall now. I believe they're $50 to $75, and you have over 250 games.
yeah, it's the one that I have. I think it didn't have that many games, but the one that I'd like to get eventually is, you know, they sell now these arcade console types. Those are kind of neat. Actually, one guy that we used to go to high school has a man cave, and every so often he posts pictures of his man cave. Well, inside his man cave, he's got his big projector screen and all that stuff, and his sofas, but he also has a bar, and on the other side, he has those retro arcade machines.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat, you know, but they're pricey. I mean, they're like $500, $600. They're not cheap, but anyway, so you know, besides the, you know, the gaming thing on that Amazon 4K Max, I mean, that's another alternative. I mean, there's Apple TV as well. I think you were a user of Apple TV. What was your experience with it?
I liked Apple TV. All right, the only thing I saw was you had to buy the device, which was $99.
Yeah.
All right, and then there's a monthly subscription. I forgot the cost of it. I believe it was anywhere from $10 to $15 a month.
Yeah.
You know, but just like the Roku, you had to subscribe to other channels.
Right. Yeah.
There's one remote and one remote only. And if you lost that remote, you were SOL.
Wow. Yeah, well, it's the same thing with the Roku. You know, I've lost, actually, I've lost, to the one downstairs, we lost the remote and we could never find it. We didn't know what the heck happened to it. So luckily for Roku, we can download an app on the phone and use the remote app, but it's still pretty cumbersome. But fast forward like 4 years later, it was actually in the couch, inside the couch. And that was a pain. So that feature that Roku mentioned about finding the remote, that comes in handy because I go crazy when I can't find the remote. It drives me up the wall, you know. So, but yeah, that is the thing about streaming, is that for certain channels you are going to have to subscribe. You know, there's always that question, is Netflix worth it? You know, a lot of times they have old crap out there. You know, some people don't like Prime Video for the same reason, or vice versa. You know, I have Hulu because, you know, we watch, I'll admit it, we watch a soap opera that's only available on Hulu. So,
What's this we? I bet you it's only you.
no, it's me and my wife. You know, she's the one that got me hooked on it. So, yeah.
Sure.
So, you know, so I subscribe to Hulu, and of course Paramount Plus because of the Star Trek. You know, CBS is making a killing off of that. You know, so, you know, it just depends. It depends on your viewing habits, but is
So are
cable
you paying more now, or are you paying less than when you
I
had
would
cable?
say that I'm probably paying slightly less. Now, and if you're asking me what that dollar figure is, I couldn't tell you. But let me tell you this: based on my viewing interests, and I'm using that word quite a bit tonight, I couldn't get those interests on regular TV. I'd still have to get Paramount Plus to view my Star Trek shows. So, you know, I probably am saving a little bit of money. You know, I just couldn't give you a definite figure, but the cost of cable is high. It really is high.
Yes, it is.
And
You don't mind me
then
asking how much do you pay for internet?
internet about $60 a month.
You have the 100 gigabytes or the 500? I mean,
Probably the
yeah.
100. Probably the 100. So
All
that's
right.
probably close
Because
to
I paid
70.
$79.99 for 500 megabytes. All
How
right.
much?
$79.99.
Yeah, it's probably. See, I never look at my cable bill. I just pay it. You know.
Really, dude?
Well, I have to because you know I work from home, so it's like a normal ongoing expense. Yeah, it's kind of like paying the light bill, you know. So, but once again, if you want to see Netflix, if you want Prime Video, if you want Hulu, if you're into Paramount Plus because of the Star Trek, you're gonna have to pay it even if you had cable. So it'd be more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you are saving money in a way. And you know the local channels, the resolution on that antenna is much better than even what's coming down the cable pipe. So it's better to get the signal off the air. So, but that's pretty much what we were going to cover tonight. Like I said, I wanted to get this information out there because I have a few cousins that have been talking about this for years, and they still can't get their head wrapped around this idea of streaming and what it means to their cable bill. But beyond that, what it means to their viewing interests, you know, what options there are available. But it may
My
not.
sister has been talking about cutting the cord for about 2 years, and I was the one that actually persuaded her to cut it because she was paying $175, $200.
Yeah,
It's like, it's too much money, Steve. It's too much. I said, dude, just get a Fire Stick
yeah,
and get an antenna.
yeah,
She's been happily paying $60 a month for internet only with that antenna by her TV,
yeah.
and she is happy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it takes some courage to do it. if you've been using cable or satellite TV for a long time, you know, you debate it for a while. I mean,
Yes.
you know, should you do it? Should you not do it? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I mean, but the reality of it is, for most of us that work, especially two parents, you know, the likelihood of you watching TV and all those channels is going to be zilch. It's just it is a
Yes.
waste of money, you know. So, all right, well, that's it for today. I don't know when the next show is, but definitely, you know, just keep your ears open, because I definitely will have you back for co-hosting duties again.
All righty. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope we do this again, and next time don't freeze me. All right, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was just too excited about showing all that other stuff. So, all right,
Awesome.
we'll see you next time.
All
All
right. You
right.
have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.